So Telltale Games and Gearbox Software actually came to Austin for the South by Southwest Gaming Expo, and I was actually able to record the whole panel for you guys. And on a small side note, they were so nice enough to meet their fans afterwards that I actually got to get my video game signed from them. See if you can see the signatures. Oh, there's Telltale Games. Here's some Borderlands. So yeah, just check out my video, guys. It's actually really fun to watch. They're funny guys. They had a good crowd. It's a little long, but it's totally worth it. So I hope you guys like it. Thanks, guys.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tales from the Borderlands panel. Thank you so much for coming.
I'm Kamal Nanjiani. This is Emily Gordon. We host a gaming podcast called The Indoor Kids for the Nerdist Network. If you guys want to go down the line and introduce yourself, we have awesome people from Telltale as well as Gearbox here.
I'm Anthony Birch, and I was lead writer of Borderlands 2. I'm Matthew Armstrong. I'm the franchise director of Borderlands.
I'm Kevin Brunner, the co-founder and president of Telltale Games.
I'm Harrison Pink. I'm the lead designer on Tales from the Borderlands.
Well, thank you guys for coming. So I think first, everyone, when I first heard this, I was really excited. But, Telltale and Gearbox working together, it seems like sort of a crazy thing. Like, how did this happen?
Evidently, nobody knows. So our biz dev guy, Dave Eddings, is friends with your biz dev guy, and they basically kind of just got plastered one night and thought it would be interesting to do.
Yeah, my version of it is last year's VGAs. Afterwards, we went out and one thing led to another, and then 9 months later, this came out.
Right.
So you got pregnant with a game.
Yeah, we have a game baby.
I don't really recall.
That's what most guys say.
Oh, jeez. What is so dark, so quickly? What is it about each other's games that made you guys want to work together?
Oh man, it's on me. The Borderlands. I've played all the Borderlands games. I'm a huge Borderlands fan, and I love the world, and I love the stories that go on there, and the gameplay, and just it's the experience of playing with your friends and just being in this crazy world where all these crazy things are happening. I think it's just fantastic, and there's just so much rich world building and interesting characters going on in that world that it just made perfect sense to be working on this license.
For us, it was obviously Telltale is one of the best studios ever in terms of just doing story. Anybody who played The Walking Dead and didn't cry is a robot, obviously. Yeah, Walking Dead. And more than that, the idea of a Borderlands game that wasn't, a first-person shooter RPG, just capital B Borderlands game was really interesting to Matt and I, especially because, you grow up loving Star Wars as a kid, and one of the best things about Star Wars isn't the movies, it's getting the Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina short story collection, where you can go through the scene in the cantina and every one of those guys has their own short story, and you're like, oh, this world feels so big now.
I thought I was the only one who read that.
No, I love those. That was my favorite. That remains one of my favorite Star Wars things, awesome. Just period, in the universe. And having the ability to say that, yeah, Borderlands can be more than just shooting people in the face repeatedly. Maybe shooting people in the face repeatedly and then talking to them was kind of a cool possibility for me.
And I think that is true, that what both games have in common is a really good world building, that you feel like this really, really been thought out and really, really detailed. But, Borderlands is known for being very, very funny and having a lot of in-jokes, whereas Walking Dead is more known for being very sad and upsetting, and very sad and upsetting. Sad and upsetting, I would say.
Yeah, sad and upsetting, and Borderlands, it's more shooting and fun. So how do you think those two sort of tones work together?
Well, I think one of the things a lot of people know us for Walking Dead, but before Walking Dead, we were mostly a comedy studio, working on Sam & Max and Strong Bad and things like that. So actually, we've got all this pent-up comedy in boxes around the studio that we've been dying to unpack. And we have a lot of pent-up tragedy. See, if you play our games, you'll notice that even our funniest characters, in fact, our very funniest characters, tend to have the most tragic and horrible backstories. We really just want all of our characters to be miserable and funny at the same time. So we have a very dark universe.
Yeah, you guys really do, because the newest Borderlands 2 had a pretty major character. Has everybody played Borderlands 2? I'm gonna do a Can I do a big spoiler? No? All right. Well, you know,
His name rhymes with Boland.
yep. There is a lot of darkness with Tiny Tina's a very dark, funny character.
Yeah, she has a significantly, like, sorry, I'm a little taller than him, but he's really good looking. Look at
No, I wasn't laughing I was laughing at his reaction on his beautiful face.
Yeah, many of our characters, Pandora's a nasty planet, and most of our characters have some tragedy or darkness in their stories. And Tina has one of the most tragic and darkest stories. But that's one of the ways that we're able to really keep the humor strong and vibrant. It's got a really nice contrast to it. It lets you care about somebody, but still lets them go extreme and wacky.
And I will say, Tiny Tina is voiced by Anthony's sister, Ashley, and she is amazing. She did an amazing job with that. And I don't know if you can talk about it, but the tone of this Tales from the Borderlands game is going to be kind of gallows humor. Is it going to be funnier? Is it going to be tragic?
I mean, it's the Borderlands humor. You know, it's definitely that sort of dark comedy, that comedy with an edge. Like, it's not just slapstick all the time. There's a lot of meaning behind it too. And I think that's something that Telltale is really perfectly positioned to do. You know, the lead writer, Mike Stenley, he was the writer of the original Sam & Max back in the LucasArts days. So, as Kevin said, we've done a lot of comedy before, and this isn't new ground. It's actually really nice to just be like, and a gag goes here. To say the word gag again after doing Walking Dead and Wolf Among Us. But we're definitely trying to stay within the sort of expected level of humor of the Borderlands games, and to sort of bring a Telltale angle to it as well. So it's not just copy and paste. I mean, we're huge fans of obviously Anthony's writing and Borderlands and Borderlands 2. So we're definitely not going to drift too far away from that, but also we as Telltale want to tell tales of our own, I guess, on our own as well.
And you guys have announced this game, but we've never really heard any details of this game. So, can I ask you, I mean, you guys allowed to say, like, is it set before or after Borderlands 2? Like, where does it fit into, like, the Borderlands universe?
Yeah, we can talk about that. So, this is definitely set on Pandora. It's set after the events of Borderlands 2 and all of its DLC. So it fits into the world basically as the story of Borderlands 2 and all of its DLC sort of wrap up.
But it's not Borderlands 3.
No, it's just not Borderlands 2 and it's not Borderlands 3. It fits into it is going to be canon. What happens in Tales from the Borderlands is canon to the sort of Borderlands mythos and Borderlands universe. But it isn't like a prequel, it isn't like it's nothing else. It's basically after Borderlands 2 has ended, all the story stuff has ended in Borderlands 2, and the sort of world is sort of changing and reorganizing itself. That's when our story takes place.
And you've never publicly talked about any of this stuff at all.
No, really the only thing we've done is make a really cool trailer for the VGX, and that was pretty much it.
So this is sort of going to be like the Mos Eisley thing of the Borderlands universe, huh? You're going to blow some kids' minds the way your mind was blown.
That's certainly the hope, yeah. I mean, I think the thing that's really cool about Mos Eisley, or any sort of, expanded universe stuff of that type, is let's tell a story that takes place in this universe that's not specifically about the world sake. It's not about the cool badasses doing cool badass things. It's about just schmoes, just trying to get by, and that makes the world feel much more real.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, it's just people who don't fucking matter.
Those idiots.
Bunch of dumbasses. But really cool schmoes. Don't get me wrong.
Nice, good save.
But you play Borderlands 2 and you're playing as Salvador, whatever. Nothing bad's really going to happen to Salvador necessarily. When you're playing somebody that maybe isn't a vault hunter who has a bazillion skills and can wield all the guns in the world, I think there's more dramatic tension there. So I think weirdly not even weirdly, because it's a Telltale game, you have choice. There's just so much more freedom for you guys and for us helping you obviously to do stuff that we just couldn't get away with in a Borderlands game.
We used to always joke about that, like if you lived in Gotham but like worked at a fast food restaurant.
Yeah.
Well, alright, Batman keeps slamming into our restaurant, breaking all of our windows, I guess we gotta fix that again. But I like that idea of exploring characters that aren't like the heroes and the badasses, because they all have stories too. They all have tales.
You can
Nice.
say.
From the border.
One point. I mean, it's totally true, and there are so many people that live on Pandora and are affected by. I mean, what Pandora is, as Matt said, it's a really nasty place to live, and there are other people who can't defend themselves, like vault hunters can, by just pulling out a gun and just murdering a bunch of people. There are people who have to live on that world and have families and have friends and have things that they care about other than the things that you care about in Borderlands 2 that are really important to them. And I think there's tons of space for those stories.
Oh, I was going to say, what seemed to be very important to the characters in Borderlands was greed. That seemed to be a big part of. Oh, there you go. I just thought of that, and you guys, they already had made a thing for it. Wow, you guys are good. And whereas a lot of the Telltale games, it seems like there's a lot of moral choices to be made. Am I going to do good? Am I going to do bad? Borderlands, the characters seem to be more sort of greed-oriented. How does that sort of play out?
I mean, the way that I sort of looked at it was that in Pandora, you're either greedy or you die. Like, there's no way to just be like, here, eat all my food. You just can't live like that. It's like any sort of like weird post-apocalyptic wasteland story. It's just sort of like, I have to keep myself alive. Sorry, everyone else. So it's definitely, I mean, when we started talking about this license, I sat down and I figured out, I said, well, what's the thing that motivates the players of Borderlands? And it's greed. It's sort of picking out the coolest stuff, and you're sort of like vacuuming in stuff without really considering what that means. And I thought it would be interesting to just see what it meant. And there's no way to not be greedy. It's just sort of, how will you be greedy? Will you kind of backstab this guy? Will you backstab this guy and steal his stuff? What will that mean? Greed always has consequences and makes things complicated, but you can't just opt out. There's no opting out of that treadmill on Pandora. It's like we watched Treasure of Sierra Madre. Has anybody seen that movie? So in that movie, it's just no. Who would watch it? But in that, right? Yeah. But that movie is just three guys go up to a mountain, make a bunch of dig up a bunch of gold, and then it just sort of like affects them in really different ways. And one guy just goes off the cliff and off the deep end. One guy is just sort of like, well, money's cool, but I don't want to hurt anybody. And one guy, it's really interesting to just see how greed affects people and what it does to them. It doesn't affect everyone the same way. And greed isn't good and greed isn't bad. It just is, and how it affects people is what's interesting. So that's kind of where we went with it, based on the world that these guys had already sort of set up.
Well, and to be fair, in Borderlands, the things that I'm finding, the loot I'm finding in Skag Poop, it's not hurting anyone. That greed is not hurting anyone, is it?
Technically, it's Skag Vomit.
Oh, is that right? It's not Skag Poop?
They don't have any S.
Skags don't have an anus?
First.
Now I've heard everything.
There's an egg-eating snake that swallows the egg, crushes the egg, and then spits the egg shell back out.
Wait, they don't have buttholes?
Well,
They've never said this. We've never discussed whether or not skags have buttholes.
we put a lot of effort into understanding the physiology of all of our creatures. We don't always have passion, but we understand it.
I've been rifling through Skag Vomit. Somehow rifling through poop was okay with me. But now that I know it's vomit, I'm disgusted.
That was the big twist ending of Borderlands 2, is that all the poop was actually vomit the whole time.
Yeah, that explains the color a little bit, because I was like, this cat should go to the doctor. Well, except it's dead, so should. But the greed thing is interesting, because that is how, we would play the game together, and I would never get rid of any weapons at all. I would put them in my lockers, and that sort of started bleeding into my real life. I would go to Burger King and get 3 Whoppers, because I'll need these at some point.
Yeah. It just makes you the hoarders like the game.
Yeah, exactly.
It kind of turned us against each other too, which is always great when you're married and playing video games together. But I also think that's true, because in the Walking Dead games, the greed was not a factor so much. Some of the characters, yes, but it's more survival. Who do you care about? And feeling judged by a lot of other characters in those games. I don't feel like feeling judged anymore. Am I going to feel judged when I play Tales from the Borderlands?
Hopefully not. The whole greed thing it's not a morality game. Kind of like Walking Dead sort of is a little bit. Who would you save versus let die is kind of a really heavy thing. But who do you backstab and kind of pickpocket versus kind of cheat and swindle out of something else is more of what's happening in Tales of the Borderlands. And that generally has pretty funny and unexpected consequences. But you're rewarded for trying to lie, cheat, steal, step on someone's back.
Just like real life.
Yeah. There's never a downside ever. The way I kind of look at it is that Walking Dead sort of presents you with 2 choices, and you don't want either of them. And Tales from the Borderlands will present you with 2 choices that you're so upset you can't have both. So you have to pick one, but in Walking Dead you don't want any of them. In Tales from the Borderlands you only can get one of the 2 things that are hilarious and funny. So.
So now you guys call this two sides to every story. What does this mean? Tell us about that.
Okay, so two sides to every story. Well, if you watch the trailer, the BGS trailer, there were sort of like two people. There was a guy and a girl. And in Tales from the Borderlands, you're actually going to play two protagonists. We're going to tell a story from two perspectives. And the way that we're setting this up is that the story is sort of their interpretation of events. So you'll get one side of the story from one character, another side of the story from another character, and they're both kind of lying jerks because it's Borderlands. So the truth is kind of in between, kind of like Rashomon, fitting into Rashomon. It's
Really
kind
dropping some serious movie stuff here today.
we love movies. Telltale. So it's similar, sort of like unreliable narrator kind of storytelling.
There's also a great X-Files episode that has that. I believe it's called Bad Blood. Does anyone know?
Is that season 2?
Do people not watch X-Files anymore?
I just started
know
watching it again, actually.
It's
So
great,
I'm
right?
gonna look out for that episode.
All right, let's just talk about X-Files now. So how did you think of this idea, like this sort of two sides to every sort of, what was the inspiration?
We sat down and really tried to figure out what, I mean, Kevin can talk to this a little bit too, like we sat down and tried to figure out what mattered to Borderlands fans, and sitting down and having like two different perspectives on, like multiple perspectives on the game, like with your friends playing with your friends, like I'm playing Salvador, you're playing Maya, getting two sort of versions of events, like I remember I landed the killing blow on that giant monster. No, I totally did that. No, you picked up that loot. I thought I picked up that loot. And this sort of version is the Telltale sort of like extrapolation of that idea.
Kind of like bragging rights. And each of our two characters, one's named Reese, one's named Fiona, and they're both kind of telling fish stories the whole time, where their version of events are kind of suspect as to, like, did things really go down that way? And the game doesn't necessarily present the truth. And the true story of what's going on lies somewhere in the middle, but you never really play what actually happened. You're playing these kind of big fish versions. Another movie reference, big fish version of
The 3.
Yeah, and it sounds like that the truth is not even what's important.
Exactly.
Yeah, nobody cares about the truth. Yeah.
making up the story, like
Yeah.
like making up the lie, is a really entertaining part of the game.
And so do you switch back and forth between the two characters? You just keep going back
It's
and forth?
the specific details of how you do that. I don't think we're going to talk about quite yet, but it's going to be done in sort of a Telltale way. Like we sort of tailor a specific narrative to the way that a game gets played, and we sort of want to keep somewhat control over the way that you experience those stories. It's a lot harder to do setup and payoff when you can just sort of like left trigger, right trigger, swap around all the time. So we'll get more details on that too.
And who are these two characters?
Yeah, let's talk about the characters.
There, the players. Here they are. If you've seen them in our trailer, here
These
they
human
are.
beings are very attractive. These are very attractive people. Tell us about these two human beings really
Sure.
quick.
Well, let's start with the guy who we never put his name out before. His name's Reese. Tumblr calls him Sexy Cyborg Guy. Now he has a name. He really has a name now.
Wait, isn't he an android? I thought he was an android.
He is not an android.
Okay, I'm sorry.
He has feelings and emotions.
I think androids can have feelings and emotions. Have you?
Jesus, check your privilege, dude.
Yeah. Have you not seen Blade Runner?
I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't watch movies. So as you can probably tell, Reese works for Hyperion. He is not Handsome Jack, for people who are wondering if he's Handsome Jack.
So this was a big question. Let's get this clarified now. You can see in the hair, maybe in the hair, he's got some Handsome Jack in the hair, but not at all.
You know, there's actually not a lot of tall, statuesque white people in Borderlands 2, so like anytime you have two of them together, I mean, like, so he's definitely part of Hyperion, and Handsome Jack has an effect on him. Their specific relationship we're not going to kind of touch on quite yet, but Handsome Jack has definitely affected the people that work at Hyperion, and Reese is a Hyperion man through and through. So there's a reason he looks the way he looks. He definitely looks up to the sort of example that Handsome Jack has set, but he isn't like his secret nephew or like secret love child with anybody.
Okay, so he is not Handsome Jack. He's not a young Handsome Jack. It's like having the Rachel. You know, everybody had the Rachel in the 90s, that hair. He's just got some
Was
hair.
everybody like,
That's the
who's
style.
Rachel?
Yeah. And I also like the skinny tie. Skinny tie works for me.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's a pretty good skinny tie.
Yeah.
And is he a vault hunter?
He is not a vault hunter, and neither is the girl whose name's Fiona, which we can get to. So Fiona is our female character. She is a con woman, a con artist, flim flam, kind of snake oil salesman. Neither of the two characters are vault hunters. They have sort of interesting and exciting dealings on Pandora. They're there for very specific purposes, but they're not, let's go find a vault. They're not, like that's something that vault hunters do, and they have their own sort of agendas that they're trying to fulfill as well.
What can you tell us about what their agendas are? Like what's
Not
their
quite yet.
backstory?
I don't want to go into that quite yet. We have a ways to go before the game comes out, but there's definitely some really exciting stuff that they get into that sort of sets them on the path to go after stuff that they might not be quite ready for. Like maybe a level 1 Vault Hunter might go after, but not a level 0 Vault Hunter would go after. And so we sort of consider their arc sort of, their level 0, if you want to call it that, like arc.
And so they know each other.
They will.
Interesting. And when you're,
They will meet each other and know each other in Tales from the Borderlands. They may not start out knowing each other.
Are they going to have sex?
Choices matter. No.
Yeah, with each other.
Maybe not with each other. Maybe
Choices always matter. When it comes
Actually,
to-
now that they've asked that, I'm curious too.
Wouldn't you know this, Anthony?
Do you really want us to spoil like mid-season cool stuff? No, let's.
So
Everyone's
Anthony,
like, yeah.
That's like God of War. That's what you do in
I
God
was
of
just
War.
thinking that too.
If you get
There's a lot of like circling around.
We're just say Fiona will remember that.
Yeah. We'll try not to remember that.
Fiona will tell her friends about this. She might write a blog about it later, we're not sure. So do we have a sense of Fiona's background at all? We know she's kind of a scam artist, but
She is one of those people in Pandora who's just had to do what they need to do to survive. Like there's definitely a vibe of, look, I have to stay alive in this universe where Vault Hunters come in and just like a tornado just rip up towns and steal people's stuff, and they're just like the weather. They just do what they do. But that's not how I solve my problems. So you wouldn't worry, there will be shooting guns in this game, just in a Telltale sort of way. So it's not just like, use your harsh language. It's definitely, there's going to be some action, there's going to be some cool stuff you're doing, and she just has, she's trying to sort of do this con. She's just basically, anytime she can make some money, she will try and make some money just to keep going. She's sort of really not, she's kind of out on her luck. And the thing about being a con artist is that eventually you run out of places where people don't recognize you, which is obviously we alluded to in the trailer. Like there are wanted posters, people sort of recognize her sort of place that she can apply her trade are really shrinking, and the people who are willing to work with her are really shrinking. So you can't be a con artist forever and ever because you run out of people who don't know who you are. So that's kind of the that's the state where she is when the game sort of starts.
Yeah, because people just like don't trust the prettiest woman in Pandora.
Exactly. There's a lot of pretty women in Pandora.
really are. And when you're writing characters like this, Anthony, how do you approach characters like this?
Well, Fiona is the creation entirely of Telltale, but I love her. Like she's got some of my favorite character design of a lot of characters I've seen. But
What are you referring to, Anthony?
what?
What are you referring to specifically?
Like I like the fact that she's this cool female character, and find the cleavage art. It's real hard.
It is.
Like,
She's very dressed. I
yeah,
will
she's
say.
a well-dressed. She like fits the part of somebody who's coming in and trying to pretend like they're hot shit, and that they're something that's really important, and can convince somebody of that without like just like unzipping her shirt, which is the general way that female characters in video games kind of get what they want. But yeah, generally when it comes to writing characters, at least for Borderlands, I try to like find a hook for them. So for Tiny Tina, it was Insane Little Girl Bomber. For Handsome Jack, it was like Evil Nathan Fillion. And then try to find something that justifies how wacky they are. So for Mr. Torque, for example, like he's a wacky guy. He's basically Macho Man Randy Savage, but I tried to make him really lonely and sad, like me and
Like Macho Man Randy Savage.
yeah, like Macho Man Randy Savage.
Art imitates life.
But yeah, it's sort of like what I was saying before. Borderlands is a franchise in a universe where things can really quickly get so out of hand that you can't take them seriously and don't care about them anymore. So we try to balance anytime anybody gets too wacky or too funny, giving an equal amount of darkness or sadness to them that tries to ground them a little bit, because it's like every comedy needs a straight man, and we hope that the sad stuff or the dark stuff is the straight man to the wacky shit that is a dude talking about meat bicycles.
Did you see Guns from Borderlands?
What's going on here? Talk to us.
So, as you might be able to see here, our pal Reese is controlling a loader bot and grabbing a psycho by the neck and being a jerk. So there's definitely action sequences. There's definitely cool stuff. You know, Reese has special abilities. He's got a robotic arm for a very specific reason, which is that he likes to hack stuff. He's a hacker. He likes computers, and he's a big old nerd.
Yeah, he looks like all the nerds I know.
Yeah, he's a Borderlands nerd. And so, you know, we're gonna give you, I mean, he hacks into machines and computers and stuff. And that's not the only thing. It's not like every time there's an action sequence you're gonna hack into something, but that's his like signature thing that he does. So there's gonna be a lot of crazy action sequences where you do all sorts of crazy stuff. And this is the first screenshot. So there you go.
So his abilities are he can sort of hack and control. So his fighting style seems to be more sort of hacking based. And what about
these sort of? I think that, I mean, he's going to get physical. He definitely doesn't just hack and then he just hides. There's going to be a lot of bandits in your face and bad guys trying to threaten you, and it's definitely not going to be I can stand behind this shield and the little robot takes all the damage and I don't have to worry about dying. It's going to be in your face. Sort of like standard Telltale style of guy gets in your face and tries to punch you, and it's not going to be like I can stay safe. But Fiona is going to be very similar. She can get her hands dirty. She lives on Pandora. You can't live in Pandora without knowing how to take care of yourself. The funny thing about Reese is that he's kind of an office boy. Like you can see, he's well dressed. He hangs out like on the Hyperion H. So he's kind of like doesn't really get his hands dirty that often. So he's going to kind of be a little bit more of a fish out of water. He's going to find his feet relatively quickly. And same thing with Fiona, is that she's a little bit more rough and tumble, as you can see from the art, that she knows how to take care of herself. In a world where you're scamming people, getting a bruised lip happens pretty frequently, so it's not going to just be, a hands-off sort of thing. You're going to definitely punch some guys in the face. Confirmed.
And it's nice to see the psychos. I miss seeing the psychos.
There'll be a lot of those guys.
So, can you guys tell us, how many episodes are we looking at? When is it coming out?
It'll be coming out this year, and it'll be a fairly typical Telltale series, like you've seen before. But we'll be announcing more specifics of it a little closer to the launch date. Those are familiar with Telltale. We announced dates very close to when the actual stream
earlier that day
is going to be. Like about 20 minutes beforehand, we'll let you know. But we're not ready to announce the
But it is this year.
It'll definitely be this year.
And we don't know how many episodes yet.
We're almost ready to talk about how many episodes.
Okay, great. Should we take some questions from the audience? Do you guys have any? Yes, lady back there.
I think you're going to bring mics for me.
Yeah, you.
Mics
You have to yell really loud.
No, we got this.
I love Borderlands 2, played it almost every weekend for every year. And I'm really excited for this game, but my question was, I understand that the character needs to have darkness and there needs to be that sadness, but why did you have to kill Bloodwing? I tried.
You know what? I was going to ask that too. Why did you have to do that? You're a monster.
I actually did a talk at a grade school, and a 5th grade girl asked that same question with the same tone of voice.
Almost crying.
And what I told her is what I'll tell you. Why are you playing this game? You're too young.
Or just
parents know this isn't rated?
Yeah, people die. And kids should learn that lesson early.
Life sucks.
The legit reason is we wanted you to feel bad.
Legit?
We wanted Handsome Jack's arc as the enemy, because Handsome Jack was the whole point of that game, was go find Handsome Jack, kill him. We wanted for the first half for you to think this guy's kind of funny and I can stand to listen to what he has to say, I can deal with this dude. And then at the halfway point, the moment he kills Bloodwing, we wanted to go, never mind, fuck that guy, I'm going to do everything I have to kill him.
I'm going to be crazy. It worked, clearly. Handsome Jack's arc with the players is one of the coolest that I ever saw in a game, because you do like him, and when he starts to hate you, you start to hate him, and it becomes an intimate and personal thing. You really get the sense that he hates you directly, and you really start to hate him directly. That's a really hard thing to do in a video game. It was really nice for that. we also want to remind the player, when you're surrounded by all these characters who have these tragic, terrible lives, you can say that. You can easily say, hey, look how tragic this place is. But if you don't actually show the player and let them feel it, then it's really hard for you to believe it. So sooner or later, someone's got to die.
It is true that when we started, I was like, oh, that's Handsome Jack. He's so clever and funny. I'm shocked. These people are just overreacting. But then, yeah, instantly the hatred begins to flow.
Yay!
Yeah.
I love these guys.
Go ahead.
So is this going to be released on the next generation systems as well as the current, Xbox One, PS4, as well as Xbox 360? And follow up, are you going to, for Telltale, are you guys going to re-release any of your stuff from the Xbox Live Arcade onto Xbox One?
Well, we're really not talking about any platforms right now, so I can't answer that.
Any other questions?
Coming to the TI-85.
Any of these folks?
As for Telltale, super excited for Borderlands. But what can you tell us about the Game of Thrones project?
About what?
Game of Thrones.
What's Game of Thrones?
I got this. I know nothing about it. Absolutely nothing. I asked, they won't tell me, and if they won't tell me, they're certainly not going to tell you.
It's going to be awesome.
That sounds like a really good idea. No, we're not saying anything about Game of Thrones.
Let's do non-Game of Thrones based questions.
Game of Trains.
Yeah.
So you showed us a little bit about what Reese could do and what his special ability is and everything. Pardon me, special ability. But you didn't really say anything about the female character. What does she do? What's her favorite weapon?
Sure, totally. We can talk about that. So Fiona, as you can probably surmise, is a grifter and a con artist, and she uses her words to confuse and sort of like make people go, oh, this seems to make sense. So we're sort of just calling it, we're calling it fast talk, where you just sort of are able to tell a ridiculous story and just steamroll the other person and just make them go, yeah, that seems to make sense, and then just sort of bounce before they realize that, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense at all. So she gets in situations and she takes a deep breath and goes, okay, let me tell the truth. And she's going, and everyone goes, yeah, okay, cool. I had a similar situation in my life. And she's like, oh, great, I gotta go. So she definitely uses her ability to bamboozle the local rubes to get managed once.
So she's a liar.
They're all liars.
They're all liars.
She's extra good at it.
Whoever is easiest for you to...
No.
I don't know how co-op would work in a game like the kinds of games that you guys make. I can't even see in my head how that would...
It's a tough challenge for sure.
Yeah, it's something we think a lot about, and but we haven't dived into how co-op would work in a game.
How big a role will Claptrap, if any, play in this Borderlands game? And one more follow-up question. Would you consider making a Kumail character equipped with a chicken sandwich? Yeah, would you guys consider doing that? Let's talk about it in front of 100 witnesses right now. So you can't go back. I know you know how to write liars.
Considering isn't necessarily, here's where fast talk starts. So considering isn't necessarily legally binding, right? So you can say, we'll consider it.
That high-pitched voice, that was pretty good.
The higher it goes, the less you believe it. I don't want to say specifically what character's going to be in the game, but it wouldn't be a Borderlands game without Claptrap. That's all I'll say.
Those are really good questions. Oh shit!
Yeah, how is Handsome Jack in it, you guys?
We're not ready to talk about Handsome Jack's involvement. You saw him in the trailer. That wasn't by accident, but we're not ready to talk about Handsome Jack. Handsome Jack, he's dead. Spoilers.
Get up to the Borderlands! Buy it when it comes out!
We'll find out 20 minutes before it does, right?